May is also the time that is known as Mental Health Awareness Month. Also, from May 15th to June 15th is Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month. And I have Tourette syndrome. Therefore, I wanted to reach out and do a broadcast today because mental health awareness is near and dear to my heart for obvious reasons. I actually am both a professional speaker as well as an entertainer. I use my entertainment to help make my programs and my speeches more engaging and entertaining. But I speak on mental health topics, and I speak on mindset, high performance, and resilience. And we've never had a period of time, I think, with the pandemic where we have needed resilience more than now. We are, now that people are being vaccinated, we are seeing perhaps getting to a place where we're turning the corner, and we're going to, and hopefully at some point soon, get back to what we might call a normal life. But I think it's been very obvious that it's been a difficult year for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, whether it's because we've been alone and lonely, or we've just been yearning to be around other people, or for whatever your own personal reasons. And so today I am starting a series, and the series is going to be a 4-part series over the next month. We're going to do this one video every week, and I invite you to join me. And we're going to be talking about specific tools and techniques that you can use to become more resilient. And these are directly out of my different programs that I put out in front of the world. So I think first and foremost, what we might like to do is let's just define what resilience is, because I've said that word multiple times, and maybe you know what resilience is, but there are sometimes people get resilience mixed up. And the way that I personally am speaking about resilience is I'm talking about resilience from more of a mental toughness sort of point of view. And resilience is the capacity or the ability to recover quickly from difficulties. And as I said just a moment ago, it is what you would call mental toughness. Now, let me grab this next little slide and just kind of mention to you, I mentioned that I am a professional entertainer. I've been a magician for 2 decades. I'm a professional speaker as well, and I'm the author of the Amazon best-selling book, You Can Do the Impossible. But I grew up with what to me was an embarrassing secret. And that embarrassing secret, I've already hinted at it when I told you that May 15th to June 15th is Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month. I have a neurological disorder called Tourette syndrome. And the way Tourette syndrome manifests itself is through what doctors refer to as tics, which are either twitches or large movements or vocalizations that are uncontrollable, rapid, repetitive, and very difficult to live with at times. And that's why I have learned and kind of developed and learned different resilience techniques over the years. So with that said, I want to tell you a little bit of a story, because I think it's important that we normalize mental health issues, because basically it has become very obvious to me that we need to be talking more about the issues that are very common in today's world, and that there's no reason to have a stigma attached to them. Because the one thing I learned when I started speaking to groups on mental health awareness, and specifically on Tourette syndrome, was that virtually everybody in my audience was dealing with something that was difficult. For some, it felt more overwhelming than others, but life throws curveballs at you. That's what it does. And there are difficult times in life, and you might not be dealing with the difficult time right now, but arming yourself with these resilience techniques is an excellent idea, so that when you do have to deal with something that is bigger than you feel like you can handle, you will be prepared for that. So for me, my journey in this world starts with being a child, about 6 or 7 years old, sitting on the passenger side of the car while my dad drove me to school. And I was constantly doing this thing right here, where I was rubbing my chin sort of against my neck and my collarbone. And I've been doing it on and off for several days. And it was very, very, very frustrating because I couldn't stop doing it. And I could not only could I not stop doing it, I didn't know why I was doing it. And I just kept doing it. My neck was starting to get red and irritated, and I was frustrated and I was angry. And that was sort of my first the first time I remember really having the tics that are associated with Tourette syndrome. And then my parents obviously saw this as well, and they started to they wanted to, we all wanted, they specifically, but we all wanted to figure out what was going on. So they started putting me out to and taking me to different doctors to see if the doctors could diagnose what was going on with me, because Tourette syndrome is much better known. There's more education about it today than there was when I was, 6 or 7 years old. So I went to doctors, and I remember going to psychologists and different ones. And strangely enough, even though I tell you that the tics and twitches are uncontrollable, when someone's like really like watching me, I can tell that they're watching me, and I can kind of mask what I'm doing and hold it back just a little bit. It takes a great deal of mental effort because I didn't want these doctors to tell me that there was something wrong with me. I didn't want these people to be like trying to like figure me out, and it felt very invasive. But as I grew up, I finally saw a pediatric neurologist at age 13. And this neurologist knew exactly what the problem was. After seeing multiple doctors that couldn't quite figure it out, this doctor said, "Oh, you have something called Tourette syndrome." And that was a big moment for me because finally we knew what the problem was. And that is what we're talking about today in today's resilience tip or resilience technique. Let me bring up real quickly, excuse me, while I change over to my next slide. Today's resilience technique that we're talking about is the idea of owning it or giving it a name. So what I'm saying to you is simply this. I mentioned it a moment ago. At some point in life, it will be difficult. It might be overwhelming. It might feel like life might feel like more than you can deal with at the moment. With that said, I assure you that these resilience techniques, starting with owning it, are powerful techniques to help you deal with this. And so the idea behind owning it is it was very frustrating as a child, as a 6-year-old, then an 8-year-old, then a 10-year-old, to not know what was going on, but to have all of these tics and these twitches and to just continue to have them and not quite know why I was doing them. And when I was diagnosed at age 13 with Tourette syndrome, it was a relief. It was like, wow. Okay, my family and I finally knew what the problem was. We're able to say, okay, it's Tourette syndrome. And when we were finally able to say, okay, we know exactly what the problem was, we could then look for treatments. So I don't know what you might be dealing with. I do know that there are a lot of people right now out there in the world, because of COVID and just because of different issues, people are dealing with depression. People are dealing with anxiety. People are dealing with the inability to focus. I don't know what your issue is, but today's resilience tool that I am sharing with you is to be willing to be really brave. And it does take genuine bravery. I think that anybody who is willing to take this step is taking a courageous step, and I applaud you highly. But the idea here is to own or give a name to what it is that you're dealing with. And there are lots of different ways that you can do that in today's world with the internet. You can, if you don't know that you're dealing with depression or anxiety, you can go and you can look on the internet and you can look up the symptoms and you can see the different things. Perhaps it's necessary for you to go talk to a professional, but at the very beginning, you can get a good idea for what you're dealing with. And I'm just telling you that being honest with yourself, acknowledging that you are genuinely dealing with something that feels extremely difficult, I promise you it is a true act of bravery. There is no weakness involved at all. And the reason I say there's no weakness involved is because for a very long time after I was diagnosed, I felt as though my Tourette syndrome was a weakness. I felt as though There was something that, I couldn't control myself when I had these tics, these twitches, and these movements. It was very frustrating. And we will talk about that more in probably in the next one of these resilience talks that I do next week. But I just want to let you know, just the simple act of saying, hey, I am dealing with this. I am dealing with Tourette syndrome. I am dealing with depression. I am dealing with anxiety. I am dealing with whatever you happen to be doing. Just simply owning that thing gives you power over it. Instead of it having power over you, like I felt that Tourette syndrome had over me for so many years, now you're able to say, okay, I have this going on, and I'm just going to put both of my feet firmly in the ground, and I am going to own this and allow this to be. It is what it is, and this is just something I am dealing with. And it is also important for you to know that you are not alone. You are not the only person dealing with this. When I was a kid, I didn't know anybody else with Tourette syndrome. But what I have found out since then, by doing my research, and the fact that time has allowed us to develop more and more research, is that with Tourette syndrome, 1 in every 100 people have either a tic disorder or Tourette syndrome that is similar, or a tic disorder that is similar to Tourette syndrome, or they have Tourette syndrome. And so, if you're whatever you happen to be dealing with, there are so many other people out there that are also dealing with these difficulties. So, for you to understand that you are not dealing with this by yourself, that is another reason that I am doing this live broadcast here today. I do want to give you. We're going to talk a little preview. Next week, we're going to talk about talking about it, and the idea that talking to others is a very powerful next tool or technique. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. Please tune back in. A few resources for you if this broadcast has struck a chord with you. If you want to check out my website is jasonmichaelsmagic.com. And on Jason Michaels Magic, there are several resources there that you can check out. I have a podcast called the Do the Impossible podcast. I host it along with my very close friend, Stephen Bargatze. And the whole idea is we talk to people who have dealt with things that feel overwhelming and have learned different ways, different techniques, different tools for how to live their life, and people who have gone through things that feel impossible and have come out the other side better for it. So it is an inspiring and it is also an entertaining podcast. So if this little short broadcast video has spoken to you, I would invite you to check out jasonmichaelsmagic.com /podcast, where you can check out our podcast. And if you're interested in more resilience techniques faster than I can give them to you on a week-by-week basis, I will invite you to my website. There's a tab at the top in the navigation bar that says resilience training, and in there are I think they're in the resilience training. You can get 3 free videos, and if you like those, you will then have the opportunity to get the entire training, which is about 15 different videos and some fantastic stuff. I thank you for your time today. I appreciate your willingness to stick with me here, and I will see you again this time next week. And next time we will, in fact, again be talking about it, whatever you happen to be dealing with, that next resilience tool. So I will see you then. Thank you for your time. Take care. Bye-bye.